Welcome to the Women in Business radio show with Sian Murphy, connecting women in business around the globe.
Hello and welcome into the Women in Business radio show studio. I'm Sian Murphy and my co-host today this is a bit different because it's Bring Your Husband to Work Day, is Mark Jennings.
Good morning, everyone.
Hello, Mark. Welcome into the studio. So this is a bit odd. He's doing what the co-hosts normally do, except I'm having to tell him what to do because they sort of know what they're about. But it'll be different. He's here to make sure if I fall off my chair that everything sort of happens and all of that sort of thing. Also in the studio with us, our guest today in this show is Helene Hall, who is the founder and CEO of Ernico. Have I got that right?
Yes, you have, yes.
Also in the studio, taking part in the discussion, is the mindset expert, Dr. Ant. So welcome into the studio, Dr. Ant.
Hello.
So what have we got going on, first of all? I think we've got we've got a little announcement, haven't we, Mark? Are you going to be okay with this, or are you going to need some help?
I probably need an awful lot of help, to be honest, not just a little bit. So just let everybody know that the Women in Business Mid-Kent are one of the sponsors of the Women in Business Big Show. And they will be doing early morning networking and the startup workshop. And it's August the 10th. At Longfield Academy.
So we're just trying to sort out some of the sound issues here. Are we okay, Mike? We've got Mike in the studio with us today. Mike is our wonderful sound engineer. How are we doing, Mike? Are we okay? I've got a bit of a hiss, you know. You don't mind some running repairs on the way, folks. So here we go. Let's. Where do we get up to, Mark? I've got Mark and Mike. It's not going to go well, is it?
This is disaster. Yeah. So I've done the announcement. What's next?
Oh, I think what we need to do... Oh, I say, Mike, that sounds much, much better. I think what we need to do is introduce our guest, Helena, properly into the studio and find out a little bit about her, what she does, who she works with, and then we're going to be picking her brains until there's nothing left. So, Helena, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yes. Well, my background is in digital marketing. I've sort of been client side and agency side for most of my career. Focused initially around sort of paid search, organic content marketing, and then most recently ran a marketing agency in London as CEO for a few years. And really, I guess I've seen the shift in user and consumer behaviours and advertising and all of the sort of the issues around return on investment for advertisers and for brands, and then really for users that are not participants or active participants in that sort of exchange. So I've started a new business called Ernico, which essentially is trying to put the user in control, where they can say, right, I'm interested in whether it's sort of beauty products or anti-aging or skincare, and then they get rewarded for watching the adverts. So it's trying to shift the power out of sort of away from the platforms really into the consumer's hands. So not only are they looking at ads or content that they're interested in, they're actually getting rewarded financially for it.
So this is a bit of a shift, isn't it? So I have actually got a working title for the show here, which is sort of a first. I came up with it's the attention economy and your business growth.
Yes.
So I think this is we're looking at the shift from what I might call traditional advertising, yes. And some of the, I don't know, what we might be used to seeing now is where adverts just sort of fling up in front of us, don't they, wherever it is that we are, and we sort of have to sort of shy away from them or just absorb them and move on. And I think what you're doing is actually saying this, it doesn't have to be like this, and in fact it shouldn't be like this anymore.
Yes.
And there's an alternative.
Yeah, I think it's actually a win-win solution when you think of it. If you were to give a user full control to say, right, I'm interested in these products and I'm happy to see advertisements and learn, but at the same time get rewarded financially for it. From a brand perspective, you get active users that are really engaged, really want to see the advertisement, and then all of the metrics, like whether that's a click-through rate or conversion rate, the ROI, the return on investment for the advertising is great. But then from a user, they're able to monetize what they already do. So it's putting the power back in and acknowledging that the user has the power of attention.
And also, thinking about it from a user's point of view. and an advertiser's point of view, sometimes I think we sort of resent advertisements, don't we?
Yes.
But in actual fact, we do want to be, if I say sold to, we want to have the right stuff presented to us. You know, I want to see stuff that is going to help me, that I want to buy.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's far easier for me if that right stuff is sort of presented to me so that I get the information I need to be able to make a buying decision, rather than me, I may not know that it's out there at all. I may not know that it's even an option that I can use. Or having to hunt around forever until I find it and buy a lot of stuff along the way that I probably don't need, that is sort of halfway to the product that I really, that is going to help me.
Yeah.
And so it's actually a really useful thing, isn't it, advertising in many respects?
Yeah, and actually I think a lot of the sort of the initial feedback that we get from before we sort of onboarded real users and we did lots of testing with sort of alpha users, they were essentially saying advertisers or brands are not really speaking to me. And this was in a group that I had not expected. So sort of over 50s female saying, the beauty brands out there, they're not marketing to me, they're not talking to me, and I've been wearing makeup my whole life. I'm looking for specific skincare, and there isn't that sort of engagement and communication between the consumers and them feeling like the brands are really speaking to them. So there's a greater opportunity for that conversation to be had if you're responding to a need and the users are in control of that need.
So, how did you reach this conclusion? How did you sort of identify that this was happening? And the other side of it is, how did you then identify that this is potentially a business?
Yes. Okay. So I think with my background in marketing and digital marketing, and have been fully aware of the challenges and the hurdles from a sort of a brand perspective or an advertiser's perspective, decreasing ROI, decreasing pool of users who are blocking ads, for reducing click-through rates. Everything is on the decline. And the costs are increasing, and so you're spending more and extracting less. So from a brand perspective or a marketing perspective, that was really clear. But I think what really shifted or helped me sort of inspire Dernico was essentially looking at the consumer behaviours and the trends and seeing the different technologies that are coming in place, even blockchain or OnlyFans or the creator economy, YouTube channels. This is where users are saying, I want to monetize my time, my attention. I want to be in control. And it's moving away from the really traditional exchange, business sort of B to C. And this flips it into C to B. And when you flip it into C to B, that's when you change and improve all of the metrics. It becomes win-win.
Yes. I know, sorry, that's just such a sort of switch round that it's sort of almost left me speechless, and that doesn't happen often. I just want to take you back a bit where you said you sort of monitored consumer trends. How did you do that? Where did you go to get that information? I think that's something that an awful lot of business people struggle with, which is, where does this information come from? We know that we need information. We know that we need, I don't know, what would we call it, consumer intelligence, but where do you get it?
Yes.
So how did you find the information that then led to this conclusion?
Well, I think I've got one, is, I guess, and probably we're going to talk about it later, but it's the mindset for learning. So I'm always learning. I'm always, whether that's listening in every possible minute to an audiobook or a podcast, conversations, whatever's happening, and trying to be a part of, what that change is. But I specifically took out about 3 months to research technology, and it started off with blockchain. And as I kind of went under the hood and had a look, and I thought, okay, I understand this, and I got further down the rabbit hole and thought, there's even more to learn. And it was a constant journey of learning and learning. And then at the end of it, I realised, yes, blockchain, I do think blockchain is probably going to be the future, but it's not going to be for some time. There's some huge holes. But in that, it really pulled out the shift in consumer expectations and users, and a shift in, the creator economy, and how we're, as a society, we're slightly changing our expectations and our belief in decentralization and putting the control back into the consumer. And it was through exploring that, for me, it was quite simple to think, okay, I can see this shift. I can see that the power is going to come back to the consumer. What does that look like? And in my world, that looked like taking a consumer and everything that a consumer does, what they already have, and giving them the power to monetize that. So whether that's their attention, their phone number, their email. At the moment, everything is sold. Eventually, you can connect that, and a user can then generate a good amount of income from what they already are doing, in addition to whatever their salary is or whatever their income streams are.
And that makes the learning about a new product actually something that's valuable to the consumer, isn't it? Instead of being something that they resent because it's been plonked in front of them and it's interrupting what they were currently doing, it becomes something that's actually a value to them that they might actually respect. It's not an annoyance. It's not they need to swat away.
Yes. Well, at the moment, obviously, starting and growing a sort of a startup, we have to take a small slice of the vision and implement that. But in the future, I want it to be very much in control of the user. So whatever they're doing, they can we can obviously learn from AI and ML and say, right, we believe this is what you're interested in. But again, put it back to the consumer. This is what we've learned. Are you happy with that? Do you want to change that? And eventually it will evolve into all of our behaviours. So whether that's you're buying a service like, I don't know, car insurance, and you're not on your phone, and therefore you get a cheaper rate and you get points in through Earnico, whether you're playing a game and you stand next to a billboard and you get points in Earnico, or whether you watch an ad and you've already pre-selected that you're interested in these different sections. All of that can mean that the user can monetize everything, and whether from an email. I personally hate spam emails, but when I was thinking about it, if we flipped it so that the consumer's in control, and I was to say, I'm happy to receive emails about XYZ specifically, and I'm happy to read maybe 5 a day, and effectively if I sold my email to those providers, I would be willing to.
That's different now, isn't it? Yes, because you're in control.
Yes.
I mean, it drives me nuts, but I also run a business.
Yes.
And so emailing people cold is something that I don't do, but need to consider doing.
Yes.
But all the time I have all of this crap that I haven't asked for.
Off-putting, isn't it?
People who want to help me manage websites without actually looking at the fact that I manage websites. They have no idea what I do, and it's just delete.
Yes. And imagine if you were paid to be contacted for something that you're interested in. And that's the difference.
Sorry,
go on.
I just had a thought. So what you're saying is we're moving from interruption marketing to more immersive marketing, really, because you, as the consumer, are agreeing to immerse yourself completely in this concept.
Yes, and intent and interest,
yes.
right? So it's really monetizing your personal interests.
So what you're effectively doing is the consumer saying, hey, this is what I'm interested in. You're putting in front of them lots of opportunities within that particular, what should we call it, topic.
Yes.
And so you're giving them actually a variety of choice.
Yeah, educating them.
You're giving them different things that they can buy into that come within that theme. So that's I see that as a really seriously positive thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, thank you. I do too. I think it make a big change. Yes.
So there we are. We all agree on that. It's a really good idea. How did you get from, hey, there's something I've noticed here?
Yes.
In your 3 months of research, and if it was me, there'd be some notes in my journal, that sort of thing. I would have popped something on Evernote or something. So I've got this, here's this super concept. How did you get from that to the idea of how you could monetize it, and then how you could get that out there and sell it?
Yes.
What happened in between?
Well, I think for most of my career, I've always been creating business plans. So it's just a natural thing for me. I've for last couple of decades, I've been coming up with ideas and creating business plans, not necessarily executing them, but I have a few. But that feels like research is
yes,
my thing.
We'll call it that, shall we? Yes, I have a lot of research,
and I love research, and I love the metrics, and I think the difference is now, given my position and what I've been through, and the network and relationships and understanding and running a business, it's at that point where you can take that business plan and you can think, right, well, this is how I can implement it. I guess what was different this time is in my sort of looking at technology, and the technology around us has massively changed. So where historically something might take 6 months to develop, you should be able to develop it in 2 weeks. I kid you not. It's just amazing what we've got now. And if you think about ChatGPT, if you think about open source, all of the different
Jasper.
tech, yes, everything. It takes the time required and it reduces it enormously. So even for me, when I was saying and pitching to sort of investor or angels, I was saying, well, I'm going to get this done, in a couple of months, and they're like, no, you're not. I'm like, well, yes, I am. So it's I guess it's all about, it's new technology. You've just got to jump on board. You've just got to try it, and having the belief that you can do it. And you know what? I think the biggest lesson for me is learning to adapt and using everything as an experiment. And so I've always been really open-minded, and that's probably because I'm hesitant to be closed-minded. I don't want to shut off any opportunity, and I want to be able to pivot at any point. And so for me, it's not, there isn't a failure. It's all kind of an experiment, grow, change, adapt, and just a belief to, if I just keep my head down and I just push, I'm going to get there somewhere. And so really that came about with the business plan, more research, the belief that I can do it, the belief in the technology, that something will come up. And at every point, something has happened that has enabled the next step. And I haven't been aware of every step ahead of time. It's just in time. Literally, it's just in time. Everything has happened.
So, tell me, what do you sell? What's the if I was going to buy this, who would I be? And what are you selling me?
Okay, so it's a marketplace. Okay. So on one side, you've got brands or advertising agencies that are selling the brand content. So adverts, for example, let's just pick a skincare product. Yeah. That would be a brand or an agency wanting to promote that on a marketing advertising platform. So that's one side of the marketplace. The other side is a consumer that's essentially saying, I'm looking to monetize my spare time and my interests. So I'm pre-selecting that I'm already interested in, whether it's anti-aging or hair care or travel, whatever the interest is, and then we effectively match that and provide the advert to the user, and then reward the user once we can see a few things.
And where do they see the advert? When you say on the platform, is it on the platform that you've built? So are they coming on to Earnico or whatever your platform is?
Yes.
As they may come onto Facebook, for instance.
Yes.
And let's use Facebook as an analogy, although I'm sure you may not want to. But I think a lot of people understand at least the basics of how Facebook works, which is there are some people that are advertising, there are some people that are producing content, and then there are other people that are
consumers of it.
Consumers of it. So you've created something like that, but not like that.
Yes.
Where people come together and have conversations, I suppose.
Well, it's a starting point, right?
Yeah.
So there is a roadmap and a bigger vision where eventually it's not going to... I want it to tap into everything, so we don't have to pull somebody out of what they're already doing and onto our platform.
Got you. Okay.
So at the moment, it's still a startup, and it's a new, it's a disruptor. And it doesn't really exist.
Do you know? When I was looking through all of this, I wrote disruption down, and I didn't put it into the title of the show. But yes, so it's disrupting the norm at the moment.
And so at the moment, what we have is a web app. Eventually, we'll have an app, but eventually, the bigger picture will be it connecting to, for example, whether it is Facebook or the other sort of platforms that are out there. When the industry realises that consumers should be a part of this discussion and that they should have power, at that point, the big brands, the big platforms are going to have to adjust their current strategy. And at that point, I'm hoping to connect and support those other platforms so that the consumer is still in control.
So So I'm just sort of thinking this through, and I may have got it wrong. At the moment, when you advertise on Facebook, you can pick a mark, so you can say, okay, these are the people that I want to see.
Yes.
They're mums,
Yes.
they're this age, they're doing that, and sort of pulling together an idea of what I think as the advertiser that somebody who is a 30-year-old single mum
Yes, yeah.
who shops at Sainsbury's is going to want to buy.
Yes, yeah.
Which is very different from the person who's going to be seeing the advert saying, hey, this is who I'm interested in.
Yes, exactly.
This is what I'm interested in. To some extent, the demographics of who they are and where they shop is entirely irrelevant, isn't it? Because it's about what they are saying.
Yes.
This is what
they're interested in.
It's the psychographics of it, I suppose,
Yes.
isn't it? This is what I'm interested in. This is what I want to know more about. This is what I want to buy. So it's sort of totally turned it on its head.
Yes. So essentially, in if we were to look in that example, it would be a brand saying, here's my product, here's our advert, and the user saying, I am interested in this, I'm looking for this. And so it puts the consumer in control, and the brand is matched to the consumer. Or the product is.
So what happens? So let's look at it at the other point of view, because one of your other customers, you're also selling to somebody, say, who's interested in buying something, or is it earning money for taking part in the role as a consumer? How does that work? How do they? I mean, there are all sorts of ways to earn money online, aren't there, from doing surveys and all of that sort of thing. So how do you know that they're genuinely people who want to see that, as opposed to, hey, I've got nothing else to do, I'll tell you what, I'm interested in skincare, let's go for that.
Yes, well, there's lots of things that we do need to do, because that would be a problem if we didn't monitor it and control it. But there are lots of levers that we can pull that says if we don't see an interaction, a genuine or a purchase, or
at some point you need to put your money in your pocket and buy something,
and then we can decrease the user's ability to participate. So it really, over time, steers the user to say, this has to be genuine interest. There's no point in watching something that you're not interested in. We actually ask for them to mark if they're not interested, and to mark if they have already bought the product, and if they have, then to leave a review. But at the same time, there's lots of different, like it's a guaranteed view. So the brand or the product would only pay when a user has validated that they have recall. And we only pay the user when they have validated that they have recalled what was in the ad. So at the moment, there's a huge amount of issue with ad blindness, or brands paying for ads where the user can't even see the ad, or bots clicking through, and all of these things. That's ad fraud is enormous, and the problem with advertising currently is there's so many issues. But if you take it flip it around to the consumers in control, there's only a few different mechanisms that you need to control, and the brand then only pays when the user, one, is interested, and when they've watched the ad and they have recall of that ad.
Which means you've really got sort of, and so has the brand or the advertiser, got really sort of significant control over their ROI, their return on investment.
Yes.
Whereas at the moment, that's quite a difficult thing to get a grip of, isn't it? You pay your money, so many people see it, but it's sometimes quite difficult to join the dots between the number of people that have seen it, the reach that you've got, and the activity and action around it, into the money in the bank.
Yes, yeah. And all of the metrics that currently exist in the system right now are not metrics that necessarily will relate to this. It will be more of a direct, click-through rate, cost per view, ROI, rather than cost per million. I guess you have to change the environment as well, and the metrics that measure that environment.
So, looking at all of this, you really have disrupted, haven't you? I mean, you've taken it and sort of thrown it all up in the air, but got an entirely different viewpoint, figures, approach, everything, and created a platform to deliver that.
Yes, I guess so. Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. Right, that's quite a big thing, isn't it?
I've had people say to me, "Are you really doing this?" I'm like, "Well, yes, of course."
Okay, so let's dive a little bit deeper into sort of what had to happen for that to sort of move forward. So the first thing, one of the things I picked up on, is that you went for angel financing.
Yes.
how did that work? What was that like? Is it something you'd done before, or did you sort of sit from like the kitchen table and go, okay, I need some money. Where am I going to get some money?
Yes, well, I am on the front the front of sort of investment, learning as I go. So,
okay.
No, I hadn't had angel investment before. However, I was CEO of a marketing agency, and on the board were the original angel investors, and obviously I worked really closely with them, know them very well. They know me, they can trust me. So when I explained my vision and my goal, they had faith and supported me and were behind me. So that was, I guess, it's who you know at that stage.
Well, I'm not. I can see that, yes, but there were also things that you said there, which was you explained your vision and your goal, and I think
the detail. It had to be very detailed.
So the vision, the goal, and the detail, and I think yes, all right. So you had already met people, you'd already, should we say, impressed them. You'd already had discussions with them, and so they trusted you. But you still, if you'd have gone along with some fluffy cotton wool sort of idea and said, I think I'm going to do this, what do you reckon? Yes. Without actually getting that sort of the vision, the goal, and the detail, you wouldn't have got it, would you?
No, it's very true. And actually, saying that, after me saying that, it's also possible if somebody doesn't have any contacts, because now I'm walking into the world of sort of VC investments and starting without historic relationships. And so you can definitely do everything if you don't have this sort of the network. You can grow the network. It just takes effort. It takes a lot of time and effort, but you can.
How did you get your vision and your goal across to people? How did you present it? What did you actually sort of take along to that?
What did it look like?
Yes, what did it look like? You had your briefcase or your whatever. And, what did you do to get that across?
Well, it was actually in a PowerPoint presentation that with tons of research behind it, and then I'm just trying to remember now, varying degrees of sort of design. So, for example, in my mind, I knew what it was going to look like. I've just remembered now. Before sort of putting it in some of the latest tools, it was in older tools, and I'd used Canva to mock up some. This is what I think it's going to look like, which slowly evolved into probably sort of UX designs, and almost like a prototype environment where the investors could click through and they could see, okay, this is how it's going to work. And this is how you're going to monetize it, or this is how a user's going to be involved. And
so, are you saying what you did was you put together a presentation, or you found a way of presenting it where the person who you were hoping was going to invest could very easily sort of slip between the different elements of it, and work out quite quickly what it was that they needed to know or wanted to know, without you having to sort of run through 150 sort of
well, essentially the key thing is the problem. What am I trying to solve? And then the solution, and then what does the solution actually look like, and who's going to be interested in that, and actually how much money does that help a user, how much can they sort of reclaim back. But then what's the bigger vision? Because obviously that's just starting from like now. But when, in year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, what is that bigger vision? And then the backup data behind that, and then the financials, the cash flow, forecast, the revenue, and a little bit of go-to-market at that point is more is required now as sort of VC. But back then it was, how am I going to do it? How am I going to build the tech? How am I going to get brand awareness, marketing? Who are my contacts? What's my approach?
The thing that strikes me about that is that I think so many people, or so often people don't go for investment, or they don't go for angel investment, or they may sort of try and get a bank loan because they think it may or may not be easier, whether that's right or wrong or not. But that what you've said, I'm not going to say it's sort of obvious, but these are components of a business plan and a strategy that you should have anyway.
Yes, you need it anyway. Yes, regardless.
and that with having that vision and pulling those elements together in a way that other people can understand, which, I'm sort of like flipping that out like it's really easy to do. But it is doable, isn't it? If as long as you have the basic components and you have what you're trying to achieve in your mind, okay, this is what I need to do, this is what I need people to understand, and this is how I want them to be able to access that. It's the sort of thing that you can do. It's doable. You don't have to be, you can just put this together and step out.
Yes, yeah.
And did you try it out on anybody first? You didn't, did you?
No, I didn't really. I mean, I had shared it with a few people, but in all honesty, most people are not really interested. Most people, family and friends. They're not
I didn't mean family. Don't ever try anything out on family and friends, because they look at oh, that's lovely, dear.
No, in terms of from a business perspective, I did have conversations actually. So I went to, I guess, the network of sort of agencies and people that would tell me whether I was just wasting my time. However, I wasn't looking for am I wasting my time, because a lot of the people were like, really, are you really going to do this? Don't you think it's too big a step? And so I didn't bother me. I was going to do it anyway. I had the vision. That's what led me, is knowing I really feel I see what the future is. I really feel that, and I'm just walking towards it. And so somebody could say to me, Helene, I just really don't think that anybody's going to want to be in control of, what we've currently got is fine. I mean, but I don't believe that. So I'm going to continue walking down that path.
What gave you that belief? Because it's quite. I think what you've just described there is, especially with friends and family, either saying everything you're doing is wonderful, or because they have their own hidden agenda, sort of hissing through their teeth. Oh no, like a car repair shop going. Oh no, that's going to be terrible, isn't it? Yes. That's going to be really, really expensive, and it's not going to work.
Okay, yeah. So why did I?
So how you? It sounds to me as though you did get a little bit of that sort of pushback.
Yes.
And that you actually said, well, I was nearly going to say a rude word then, but no, thank you very much. I'm not taking that on board.
Yes.
This is where I'm going.
Yes. So I think it's from, obviously I said I've been doing business plans for many, many years. I actually did, I've done a few which I've never acted on. And then 10 years later, or 5 to 7 years later, it's come about. So that has given me the strength of, I can see things coming. And I think I know what's going to happen. So if I don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. So I'm just going to do it. And it's knowing that I've spotted it before and I didn't act on it. I spotted it again, didn't act on it. This time I'm spotting it and I'm going to do it.
So it's having that belief in yourself to take it forward, regardless of what anybody else is saying or doing, which is actually probably about them rather more than the potential success of your project.
Yes,
yeah. Okay, I think that has been such a useful conversation and really inspiring for anybody, women, whatever, who are listening in and thinking, I've got this idea, but I don't know, and people are sort of being a bit negative about it. It's about tapping into what you know in your gut is actually either going to work, or if it's not going to work, you're going to learn a lot. We do mention failure every now and then. I'm very keen on failure, actually.
Always failing.
I am so keen on failure. On the questionnaire when it says failure, I do every now and then somebody, you don't fail. You learn. No, actually, you fail. Sometimes you just have a goal, you don't hit it, you failed, and that's fine. That's okay. Yes. And yes, you may learn something, but it is being prepared to fail, isn't it?
Yes. Well, I think my the mindset around of always being open-minded is to protect myself from that that feeling of failure, because I feel like I'm always learning, because I'm not ever really achieving either. That's the other side. I don't ever really sit there and go, oh yeah, I did a really good job there. I'm like, no, I don't. I think, right, how am I adapting? What am I going to pivot to? How am I going to move forward? What am I going to learn from it? But yeah, it's failure to failure.
Well, we're going to go over into, I have sort of like this little sort of quick fire round, which I quite enjoy, which sort of taps into some of your perhaps day-to-day stuff and how you, let's say, run yourself, but run your life and run your business. But we're going to focus on the failure thing just for a time being. Okay. What is your biggest failure?
So I think it's when I haven't trusted myself. For some reason, that stings the most. If somebody else has said to me, no,
and you've listened to
and
them.
I've listened to it, and then it's still gone wrong. At that point, I'm beating myself up for not trusting myself.
Yeah.
And that has been something that over the last few years, I've seen many examples of, oh, okay, I should trust myself on this one. And then now when I am choosing, there's still examples where it crops up and I think, oh, actually, trust yourself, Helena. Just, it's okay. Yeah. just it, and knowing that, I guess it's hard as an entrepreneur, as a sort of a solo founder. Well, I'm not bouncing ideas off of sort of other people all the time. I have to really look within and think, right, what do I feel? And having a board and investors where they say, no, I'm not so sure about this. I have to give myself the credit that I know my business better than anyone. And that's still hard, but I still have to do it. And I think it's realising that I'd rather make a mistake that I've made than make somebody else's mistake.
It's sort of validating it's sort of validating what you know internally, isn't it? So you're doing your own validation rather than relying entirely on other people telling you that you're doing a good job or a bad job. You're assessing it yourself, aren't you?
Yes.
And that's actually not that common. And I think it's something that all of us need to perhaps become a lot more aware of. That just because somebody says you're not doing a good job or that's not going to work doesn't mean that's the truth. That means that's just what they've said, and it's probably about their stuff.
Yes.
It may not be. They may be absolutely correct.
Well, it probably is about their stuff, and it's probably about our stuff as well, right?
Yeah,
so,
but it's they may or may not be correct. We have to, we have to make sure that we're making our own judgment of what's working and what's right, and our own performance, not always depending on somebody else to tell us we've done a good job.
Yes.
I think that's a critical thing.
Yes.
And if you've adapted, if you can do that.
Well, again, that's
Brilliant.
a work in progress, right? So it's a constant. Yes. It's a constant. Can I? Yes. Okay. Come on. Yeah.
So flipping it on its head a bit, and I'm not sure if we've already touched on this, but what's your superpower?
I think so. There's a few things historically. I've been through lots of challenges in my life and lots of, I guess, trauma, and I think out of that, all of those points are my superpowers now. I analyse myself and the environment to death. It used to be to death. Now I just analyse and then I learn and I adapt. But I think
without death is always good, isn't it?
Historically, it would have been a lot worse. Now it's a very calm sort of analysis and understanding. It leads to further understanding.
How do you do that? How do you do that sort of calm analysis thing? Because that's really quite difficult, isn't it? Especially if somebody's just said the equivalent to you, actually that's complete pants and utter crap, and it's not going to work, and
yes.
and you've done a terrible job.
Yes.
How do you step back from that and go, okay, well, hang on a minute, let's just analyse what's actually going here? Because so many people just go into almost like panic mode, don't they? They go, oh, so sorry, I'm so sorry that happened, it shouldn't have happened, before they've even actually gone, is this person right?
Yes. So I think there's a few different things that are still in the moment, in that hearing that comment, that might still lead to that same response. But then it's having enough self-awareness to say, there's some internal baggage or whatever that's making me respond to this. How would I choose to respond to this?
Yeah.
And it's that self-awareness. And I think over the years, self-worth actually has enabled growing self-worth and self-belief, which used to probably be my weakest point. And now getting that and growing that, don't ask me how, I think that then enables you to look back on things without that without being critical, and just saying that life is about evolving, it is about learning, we're all in this together, we're all human, and really trying to rationally pull things apart rather than being led by the emotional.
So, this is okay, this is okay, what's happened, what's next?
Yes.
Yeah, as opposed to racing forward sort of unconsciously in a panic.
Yes.
Okay, so it's like putting the brakes on.
Yes, yeah.
So let's go into something that seems totally unrelated, but never mind. What are you reading or listening to at the moment?
So one of the books I really love is Lean Startup by Eric Ries, and I've just bought his latest one, which is called Leadership. But essentially, it's just trying to take his lean startup approach and enable you to lead in a team and empower the team with the same knowledge. So how can you implement that approach in your business?
You see, I was going to ask you what the key takeaway was from that book, and now you've answered that. So that's that gone. So it's ruined. So really, it's about getting. It's about involving other people and getting your team so that you
to
can
do the whole same thing.
So
which is in short, what the lean startup is. He probably wouldn't agree with this, but I guess it would be viewing everything as an experiment and making it really clear what your assumptions are. And I think that's really good for marketing. It's really good for creating your own business. It's good for everything. Is what are your assumptions here, and how can we test them, and how can we view everything as an experiment that we can test the assumptions, see does it work, and then adapt.
That I love that. I'm going to pick that out. I'm going to take that. That's going to be
Write that
mine.
one down.
I've stolen that now.
Well, it's not mine, it's Eric's.
Well, I've stolen it. Would that be vicarious theft? I've stolen it from Eric through you. I love that. That's really. I think that's something that sometimes we very often do, but don't acknowledge. And to actually acknowledge the assumptions that we're making without just sort of, and they flip off.
Yes.
And we just carry on regardless anyway.
Yes.
Just to sit down and put those, we'll call it the business plan, but just stick them in there and go, okay, this is what I've assumed, and what is the potential impact of that assumption?
Yes.
If I'm wrong. Yes. I love that. Looking at, it doesn't have to be last week, but the last couple of weeks, has anything gone wrong, and what have you learned? Have you learned anything over the last week?
Oh, well, personally, the last few weeks have been absolutely chaotic because I've been applying for a grant, Innovate UK grant, and therefore it just takes up all of your time. And I think
it does, doesn't it?
It's just
exhausting.
Exhausting.
Yeah.
Exhausting.
Because you're playing somebody else's game, aren't you? And you're not quite sure sometimes what the rules are.
Yes.
And so you have to imagine what the rules are.
Yes. And do your own job at the same time, which is near impossible.
And try and think what was in the head of the person when they put that in there.
Yes.
Yeah, because very often it isn't what you think it's going to be. And then you have to make sure you use the same language. So, exhausting.
Yes.
What have you learnt?
I think probably just to... I was doing it, but it's just more reinforcement to listen to myself, my body. When I need to stop, to stop. When I need to go to sleep, go to sleep. And just not force myself as much. I'm really, really used to forcing myself. I'm like, I'm a workaholic. I've got kids. I've got family and parents and to look after it. So I can just fill up my day completely. I don't like it, though. I really like to find some peace. And I really like to sleep. But in these kind of situations, I think I've learned, yes, you do need to maintain, even in a rushed situation where there is a deadline, still need to maintain. And if that means you miss it or, you have to extend, then that's okay.
I think we're coming out of an era, I'm not sure, but I think we're coming out of an era where if you weren't working 24/7, if Gary Vee wasn't shouting at you... and you weren't running along in time to him. It's not that I don't like him or anything like that. I've got a lot of respect for him, but I think sometimes when you look at it on the surface level, it's like go, 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 go,
yes,
go.
Yeah.
And that we don't ever, there isn't the permission. We don't take that permission. We don't give ourselves permission to stop.
Yes, yeah.
And I think you're right, we need to. Where are we now? Hang on a minute. Oh, well, I say this is quite handy. The next question is, what do you do to relax, to switch off, wind down? Or if you've got yourself a bit overwhelmed, what do you do?
So I think what's key for me is I need to always be keeping fit. That has to be a sort of a standard. So work out and ensure that I am doing something. So I have a personal trainer once a week, which is hard to fit in, but I do it. And then every day doing some kettlebell swings and all of that stuff. But if I don't do that, then that feels like I'm not looking after myself. And that has a knock-on positive effect. So then I eat correctly. I make sure I keep my protein high, my vegetables, and I'm drinking enough water. So just that one thing of making sure that I'm exercising means it has a positive knock-on impact. But also then I sleep because I'm tired.
Yes, which is goes without saying. Really, I don't think we need to expand on that further. So the word that I picked up from there, which funnily enough, I'm just about to write about this, is standard. Is you set a rule, you've got a standard. It's not anybody else's standard; it's your standard, and that's what you work to.
Yes.
I think that's so important. I really do. So thank you for sort of bringing that into the show and reminding us that actually we need to set these ourselves and then stick to them.
The commitment, isn't it, to yourself?
Yes, yes. I'm not very good at this. I'm quite good at cheese and wine commitments. If you bring a pork pie in, I'll be fine. I have a standard around pork pies. Not very good at the exercise thing. I did actually go out. I decided I was going to go out, leave my office and go actually out of the building for 15 minutes every day.
Yes.
Yeah. Which doesn't sound like much.
But if you do it, I'm sure it's amazing.
Well, I'm either running events or it's not that I'm short on exercise. I just don't get out. I'm always in a building somewhere. So, yes, I tell you what, I went once around the churchyard, knackered. Absolutely knackered. I got back huffing and puffing, but never mind, moving forwards. So, coming back into business, what is your top tip for your topic? Now, I think your topic is disrupting. What's your top tip for that?
Okay, I think probably it is it sounds cliche, but thinking outside of the box. And so, how do you think outside of the box? Because you can't think, I want to think outside the box. So it is about not seeing any boundaries. Not seeing any limitations based on what's currently there. And actually that comes from allowing yourself to dream, allowing yourself to be creative, and dreaming about if you could have anything, what would it be? Rather than taking what we've currently got and thinking, how do I use what we've currently got?
Allowing yourself to dream. I tell you what, I've got so many quotes from this. I can imagine Trish, who will be sitting here, sort of getting ready to do social media around this, going, "Oh, and there's another one." So,
I'm not sure if that's a good or bad thing.
No, it is. It's really good. It's really good. So, allowing yourself to dream. I love that. Thank you. What is... It's not finished yet. What... You thought you were off the hook. Oh, no, there's more. What is your top tip for being in business?
Well, I was thinking about, if it was organisation or productivity. I've got some tips and tools actually that would be good. But for business, I think it's more around believing that you can do it and not taking yourself down. So you have to. I think our inner belief limits us. And we put this ceiling on ourselves. And that's for everything, whether that's your job, your role, your salary, anything that we do in our life. We are limited only by what we believe of ourselves. So many years ago, I was really ill. I was in a wheelchair for 3 years and told I was not going to be able to walk. That key challenge really told me that it's my brain, it's my thinking that can set me free, that can take me out of limitations. And so that's something that's always been really important for me is, like, where are my boundaries? Where's my ceiling right now? And I've always realised when I've set a goal and I've achieved it, I'm like, God, that goal was too low, right? It's constantly, everything is too low. And that's because I'm setting a boundary and that's based on my expectations. And so we've just got to keep pushing. And I've forgotten what the original question was.
It doesn't matter. It was your top tip for being in business. So I think what you're saying is you're recognising the boundaries that you have set for yourself that perhaps you didn't want to.
Yes.
Recognising those means that you can go above them.
Yes, shoot for the stars, not the moon.
But first of all, you have to recognise that boundary is there.
Yes. Yeah.
That one, thank you. Now, you mentioned productivity. You see, my learning thing, every week I go, I've got to print this larger. Okay? Every damned week I've got to print this larger. I can't see it. And every week I just don't do it. And so one of the things that it's on here that I do like to ask people is, have you got a tip? It could be a tool, it could be a technique or something that you do to help your productivity.
Yes. Well, this might help you with printing out that sheet next week. So historically, I found what's really useful is blocking out calendar, like in my diary, time for tasks. So that would always enable me, I'd say, right, I'm going to do it. I need to do these 10, 20 tasks, and I'd block out the time in my calendar. And if I did it, I achieved it. And in fact, I always achieved a lot more than what I blocked out. Now there's a tool that does it for you with AI called Motion. And essentially, you put in your tasks, like your to-do list. It hooks in with your calendar and it blocks out the time.
Oh, I do. I see. This is my productivity tip: is to stop looking at YouTube. I can spend weeks doing that, but motion.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, it links your to-do list with your calendar. Effectively.
Essentially, yes. You use it as your to-do list. It then blocks out your calendar.
I'm sticking my fingers in my ears. I'm going la 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 la.
But if you don't want to use a tool, just block out your calendar with tasks. So yeah, whether it's an hour or half an hour or 15 minutes.
This is potentially a little bit different to some of the other stuff that I've tried and failed at, but also that other people have used, which is time blocking, where you time block on a project. I think what you're saying is I've got a list of tasks that I've got to get through during the day. They might actually relate to different projects or different things that I'm doing, but they're the tasks, and I'm putting that time aside. It doesn't matter where they belong or what project they belong to. That's what's got to happen.
Yeah, if you need to achieve it today or at the end of the week, I literally would take my calendar and block the time
I'm
off.
going to try that, because I found that time blocking for projects didn't work.
Uh-huh.
So, I'd have an hour to work on the Women in Business Big Show, and I'd just sort of sit there and look at it. And then I'd go, okay, well, that's that done then. I can move on to the next one. Okay, I'm going to give that one a go. Okay, last question. What do you know now that you wish you'd have known when you started out? And when you started out is up to you to pick.
Yes, that I'll never be there. I'll never get it. I'm always going to be improving. There is no goal that I'm really going to achieve. I'm always going to be. There's going to be another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. So, because I had it, where I achieved a goal, I thought, right, I've done it now. Now what? Oh no, I've achieved my goal. I wish I'd known that many years ago. So I just thought, I'm just moving on.
Actually, yes, because if you're worried that when you achieve your goals, you're not actually going to have anything else to work for, you've sort of potentially run the risk that you're not going to achieve your goals.
Well, I just felt dissatisfied.
Yeah,
I just felt like,
whereas if you know, if you know that's okay. When I get those, guess what? Hey presto, there's going to be another lot that I'm going to put in place. Yes. It just keeps you moving forwards all the time.
It does, yes, yeah.
That's some super, really useful information. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Helene, how can people get hold of you? How can they find out? How can they connect with I'm going to get this wrong.
Okay, yes. Probably the best place is on LinkedIn. So if you look for Helene Hall, now it's Helen with an E at the end, Hall, Hall. LinkedIn is probably the best place to reach me, but you can visit www.earnerco.com. And therefore you can see whether if you're a brand, you can look on the brand side, or if you're a user, it's app.earnerco.com to sign up as a user.
Oh, Helena, thank you so much. That's been some really super information.
Thank you. I've really thoroughly enjoyed it.
Such an inspiration. So I'm Sian Murphy, my co-host today.
Well, without actually doing anything. Yeah, Mark Jennings.
You've forgotten, Also in the studio with us was Dr. Amp. Unfortunately, he didn't get a word in, but we were just so busy going with everything. But we are going to be hearing an awful lot more from him. So thank you very much. We will see you very, very shortly. We'll be back next week. Take care.
Tune in next week to the Women in Business radio show for more stories, ideas and inspiration to help you grow your business.